In this lesson, we're going to examine our last idea of trigonometry. We're going to look at the situations where we can't use SOHCAHTOA because it's not right angled, and we can't use the sine law because we don't know a pair of sides and angles that go together. And there's two situations where that happens. Number one, if you have all three sides. If you have all three sides, obviously you don't have a pair of side and angle. And option two, two sides and the contained angle. This angle is contained between two known sides. Again, we don't have a known pair. I don't know this side, I don't know this angle, and I don't know that angle, so I can't use the sine law. So in these two situations, we need a second tool, or I guess sort of a third tool, SOHCAHTOA, than the sine law. The tool we're going to look at today is the cosine law. The cosine law is a slightly more complicated version of Pythagoras and SOHCAHTOA kind of put together. It uses the same ideas where we have capital letters for angles and corresponding small letters for sides. In the cosine law, the two important parts are the a's. Small a and big A must be across from each other in the diagram, and you need to know one of the two and be looking for the other. The b and the c are kind of interchangeable. Again, there's two situations we're going to deal with when we look at the cosine law. Let's take a look at the first one. Determine the unknown measure. So when I'm thinking about my diagram, A's are the important thing. Big A has to be an angle, small a has to be a side, and they must be across from each other. I'm looking for one of them. Well, this must be small a then. That's what I'm looking for. And this is big A. These two must be B and C. So when I go to fill in the formula, I'm just going to write it out again so we get used to seeing it. A squared equals B squared plus C squared minus 2BC cos A. The parts and pieces that I have, I need to have x squared for my A. B and C are both 25s. B and C are both 25s. And my angle was 30. Notice that I already have x by itself. This is great news for us. I can put all of this stuff into my calculator at one time. If I do that, I'll get what x squared is. And I got 167.47 when I put in my calculator. But that's x squared and I want x, so I need to take the square root. And if I do take the square root, I end up with 12.94. This is actually a pretty nice kind of question. It's one line of where to put the right numbers, and one line, again, the answer. You don't really need to show me the part in the middle. That can be done in the calculator. But again, the key, big A and little a. Those are the two things I need to use. Big letters for angles and small letters for sides. The second type of problem is a missing angle. So in this case, I want to find an angle. It must be big A and little a. B and C are interchangeable. So if I try this the same way I did the previous one, I get 65 squared equals 72 squared. So A squared equals B squared plus C squared. So plus 80 squared minus 2 times B times C times cos of the angle. Now this is messy. It's messy because I need to get A or X by itself. And right now it's totally not. So to get it by itself, I need to move these two things over here. 65 squared minus 72 squared minus 80 squared. And I'll be left with a negative 2 times the 72 times the 80 times the cos x. Remember, my objective is to get x by itself. So again, I need to do a little bit more rearranging. I need to figure out what this number is. It's one big long number all multiplied together. And once I figure out that number, I need to bring it over here. So if you think about it just for a second, I have this number on the left side. I need to divide that all by negative 2 times 72 times 80, and I'll be left with just cos x. Now this seems painful to do over and over again every time you use the cosine law, but it's going to be the same procedure every time. So here is a handy rearrangement of this formula. Rather than having to rearrange the math every time, let's rearrange the equation. Okay. So handy rearrangement of the cosine law. This is to find angles. So for our case, I want to find cos A. I'm going to write it in as b squared, which is 72 squared, plus c squared, that's 80 squared, minus a squared. Notice again, the a's are on the outside, right? They're across from each other. Divided by 2 times b times c. Now that looks very similar to the previous thing, the one I had in red. Okay? The only difference is that I've taken care of the signs already. So in the red version, let's move this over here, okay? Move that out of the way. Okay. I have taken care of this negative sign by changing all of these signs. That's where the blue line comes from. Okay? So I'm not going to use this version anymore. That takes too long. I'm going to go right to the blue version. It has the right numbers in the right spots. Hey, math-wise, how are we going to do this? We're going to figure the number on the top of the fraction. The number on the top of the fraction, you put it all together, is 7,359. We're also going to figure the number on the bottom of the fraction, 11,520. So the first step is put all the right numbers in the right spots. The second step is figure the top and the bottom. And the third step, I want to find an angle. I'm going to take the inverse. 7359 over 11,520. Into my calculator I go, and I got 50.3 degrees. And I think that is much faster than having to go through and rearrange the equation every time just to do the same math. Okay, so there's our two problems. Finding a missing side, really quick, and finding a missing angle, make sure you use the blue version, and also fairly quick. So let's try a couple. We have a drive belt. It wraps around 3 pulleys as shown. Find the total length of the belt. So I've got one piece of the belt, a second piece of the belt. All I really need is a third piece of the belt. For cosine law, this has to be big A, and this has to be little a. So my formula is a squared equals b squared plus c squared minus 2 times b times c times cos of the angle, which is angle A. I put it all in my calculator at one time, and I get 86.1, but again, that's x squared, so I need to square root it. And if I do, I end up with 9.28. And the question said find the length of the belt. So the belt is made up of the 14.5, the 16, and my new piece, 9.28, for a total length of 39.78 centimeters. A quick use of that cosine law. This is a quick last example. We got Cheryl. She's trying to hit her golf ball between 2 trees. Okay, so she's got a bit of a space to hit it between. She estimates the distances as shown. We want to know within what angle must Cheryl make her shot in order to pass between the trees. So I want to know the angle. Again, big A and little a must be across from each other. B and C are interchangeable. We're going to use the version of the formula where I want to find the angle. So b squared plus c squared minus a squared over 2bc. Or in our case, the cos of x equals b squared plus c squared minus a squared over 2bc. Okay, to do our math, we want to figure the number on the top of the fraction and the bottom of the fraction separately. On the top, I got 2,050. On the bottom, 2,450. If I want to find the angle, I'm using an inverse. So I'm going to take the inverse of whatever this happens to work out to. I'm going to put my brackets in the calculator just the way it looks. And I got 33.2 degrees. Okay, so she's a bit of an angle within which she can hit. That's the cosine law. It's our last sort of trig idea. We're just going to work with them now. We're going to mix them together a little bit. Try some of the homework so you can make sure you practice the cosine law. You don't have to memorize the formulas, the two different ones. I'll give them to you. You just got to know which one to use and when to use it.